Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and before we go any further, like and subscribe for the best Marvel Snap Takes every weekday. We have ran a contest the past couple days for a couple Awwvengers passes, and we have two contest winners. The first, amazingly, is Safety Blade of Marvel Snap Zone. Safety Blade is awesome, has been an incredible help in getting us up and running, is one of the most creative deck builders that built some of my favorite decks. I'm really happy to be sending him an Awwvengers pack. We also have new viewer, JustKouji. Please respond here or on the other post with how you'd like me to get in touch with you, email address, Twitter handle, whatever, and we'll get you set up with your Awwvengers packs. I'm giving away a season pass in just 2 more days on Friday, so please make sure to check out tomorrow's video, which is going to be a review of the over-the-air changes that are come every Thursday. Please make sure to check that video out. As you check out tomorrow's video, you'll find out how to win a season pass. If you're still looking for Hitmonkey, this is the video for you. Next up, you may not know this, but the Snap Judgments podcast is SnapFan's official podcast. SnapFan is one of the best Marvel Snap aggregating sites. They have awesome content, mostly from Vin Kelsier. Well, he came on the podcast that just went up last night, and we created a tier list. We basically live took 26 decks and ranked them from A to F. You're not going to find a tier list like this anywhere. I think what's really interesting here, because I don't like doing things the same way other people's do. If you've been here long enough, you should know that. But we didn't walk in with rankings. We put them together on the air together. We agreed, we disagreed, we fought it out, we compromised, and we came up with a full tier list. Over on SnapFan's main page, you can find an article with the results of that tier list. But hey, do yourself a favor, listen to the podcast. It's really good stuff. See where all the major decks rank, and just so you know, we're doing this with Vin every single month. We are going to create the official SnapFan tier list. All right. We have these over-the-air changes coming every single Friday, right? So there are 12 cards that I want to see changed. Some of these are over the air, some of these are probably not going to be over the air, etc., etc. How we don't know exactly what their capabilities are. Most of these are just going to be numbers-based changes. That's cool. There's a couple that are going to be a little bit more involved, but these are 12 cards that I'd like to see the numbers changed on or otherwise altered for Marvel Snap. Let's get started. The first card is obviously Kitty Pryde. I'm not trying to be facetious, but communicating on the status of this card is important, right? Like they removed it from the game. If you can just put it back over there, and you removed it over there, so I'm assuming you can, right? If you can just put it back over there. If this is fixed, just return the card. And if it's not, then you've got to communicate. It's really frustrating to be waiting for a card. I've had this card pinned since basically right before it was removed from the game. Tell us what's going on or put it back. Tomorrow's over the air update. You want to build some real positive buzz, you release Kitty Pryde into the game and watch everyone fawn over the decision. Ghost was released. Ghost was the single card in all of Marvel Snap that I've been most excited for his release. I guess until High Evolutionary comes out. And Ghost has been a failure. Now, the change I want for Ghost isn't going to make Ghost fixed. Priority is always going to be really important in this game, and determining when and how to play for and against priority is a key skill of the game. Ghost needs better stats. I think Ghost should be either 0-2 or a 1-3. I think a 1-3 is more realistic, but I like the idea of a 0-2. This way you can get her out on like a turn 5. It gives her some utility with Hitmonkey, and if you can get her out on turn 5 with a card like Sarah, then Ghost has extra viability in that, like, now you know when you play her that you want her to be last turn. I wouldn't even hate her as an 0-1 with that stat line, with that ability. Okay. Cable, look, I'm going to be completely honest. Cable is here because this sweet variant is one I pulled recently. I think Cable needs to be a 2-3. He's just not good enough to play with Sentinel in the game, and they occupy the exact same space. In the later game, you're never going to play this over Sentinel. Now, if you're playing a synergy deck, you don't want Cable, you may want Sentinel. But if you're playing a deck that just wants good cards, I can see a 2/3 Cable or Sentinel being an argument play. The benefit of Sentinel is that for stuff like Hitmonkey, you always want to have a card in hand to play for the turn you want. Kitty Pryde works the same way. Cable could pull something expensive, which would screw your curve up, right? You wouldn't be able to keep ensuring that repeated play that Sentinel offers you. I think Cable as a 2/3 introduces interesting decision making into the meta. Star-Lord's a perfectly decent card. But they changed Groot, they changed Drax, and both are significantly better. Star-Lord should get the same change. Make him a 2/3 and give him +2. Nice and simple. I don't know if that's the kind of change they can do, but since it's just changing a number, I hope so. The most complicated change I'm going to suggest is Baron Mordo. Someone else suggested this. I'm stealing it. On reveal, your opponent draws a card, set its cost to 6. I think on reveal, the next card your opponent draws will cost 6. Basically fixes this card. It makes it a really cool control piece. They could still just draw 6 next anyway, right? And then it's useless. But it's no longer giving them that extra draw and not penalizing them. That extra draw only really affects synergy decks, and it makes this card bad. If it got that ability, I could see this going down to a 2/2. I'd rather keep it as a 2/3, push a little bit to see how it plays, but I think that's a necessary change. My favorite change of all of these, maybe second favorite change of all of these, is Doctor Strange should be a 2/2. Move has a really complicated cost curve. Doctor Strange being a 3 and then only having limited control over what you pull, because it's always the highest power card, is problematic, especially because randomly a monster pops out and then you're grabbing that, right? Making it a 2 makes it fit into far more decks and makes it a far, far cooler card. I think Doctor Strange should really be a 2/2. Rhino's a great card. That sees no play. Storm is just better. Scarlet Witch is just better. I think Rhino should be a 2/1. And if you're not willing to make him a 2/1 because he's Rhino and he should have more strength, right? How about on reveal, ruin any location? I think if he were a 3/3 that on reveal was able to blow up any location, then he would be way, way more powerful, way, way more interesting, and fit into many decks. I think then he's a reasonable tech choice. As is, he's just a worse version of 2 other cards. For Dazzler, 4/4, if you have 4 cards at each location plus 6 power, that's hard, and certain locations make it literally impossible, right? For a 4/10, it's just not worth the trouble. You can get a 4/10 from Adama. You can get with much easier ways to get there. You can get a 4/10 from Typhoid Mary and then just Enchantress her or play Luke Cage. A 4/10 is a very good stat line, but this is too much work for 4/10. I think you make Dazzler either you make her a 4/6 and then she gets +4 power, so that at least she has a baseline of effectiveness as opposed to a baseline of below curve, or you make it +8 power, and then she can get up to a 4/12. And I think a 4/12 is one of the stronger cards in terms of raw stats and gives incentive. The next 2 cards I want the exact same change. I think Kang and Magic should both be 4s for different reasons. Kang is a big bad. He's staying in Series 5. He's got to have value. Second Dinner was concerned about him thinning decks, and maybe he's good enough in battle mode that this change proves unnecessary with time. But I think Kang is a 4 with a little bit of extra potential for deck thinning that you can't really count on. And his utility to be played with another card. For example, very specifically, I'd really love to be able to, on 6, play Kang and Quake and know where all the locations are going to go, even if my opponent also gets that information. I think that would be super cool. That's what I'm looking for. I want Kang to be 4, thinning the deck a little bit, making him stronger as a perennial big bad does not seem like it's something that's actually going to break the game. Magic should also cost 4. An extra turn of knowledge that this is going to happen, that this limbo is going to take place, is good. Extra location control, at this point, fourth or fifth location control card that is really playable would be good. Magic is really strong, really cool, and really unique. But you can't play her on 6, which means you literally have one turn without shenanigans to play her. That's really rough, especially because you can still draw her on 6, and drawing her on 6 is one of the worst feelings in the game. I think making Magic a 4 keeps her strength, and even if you lower her power, don't care. Even if you lower her power, you make her a 4, and then you can get her out on 3 with Zabu. Really cool stuff happens. I don't think it breaks any deck at that point, and instead it just offers a lot of opportunity for really, really fun decks. Also, it's a buff to negative, and like if you look at the negative stats, that kind of buff may be needed. I think Sandman should be reverted to 4-1, maybe 4-2. I think as a 5-5 that you often end up building entire decks around to play on turn 4, he is probably too strong. You're getting too far ahead of curve by playing Sandman. Because you're not suffering at all from the power he has. I don't care if he loses the cost to lose that power. I still think there's decks to build around him. I just think they're riskier because as a 4-1 or 4-2, if you play him on turn 4, he's still beating the same decks he otherwise beats, right? But decks that aren't trying to flood the board have a fairer time of countering him because he's low enough power then that you're taking a real hit. I think Sandman as a raw even stats is too strong. I think card games are more fun when you can play your cards. It's part of why I hate Leech. And the reason Leech isn't on this list is because I want him to have a far bigger nerf than just stats. But I think that's the big change for Sandman. And lastly, we have our friend Nick Fury. Nick Fury should cost 4. And my argument why it has very little to do with Nick Fury, except that he's kind of bad and he's an iconic character. Nick Fury should cost 4 because the nerf to Quinjet, which was a Thanos-based nerf, really, really did severe damage to Quinjet. Quinjet is just not really into decks anymore. And if you make Nick Fury a 4, and he can lower his power accordingly, 4-5, 4-6 is perfectly fine for this. You get 4-6, draw 2 6-cost cards, and then if you're running Quinjet, you can play that 5 and 6. You can play them both. And that's extremely powerful. Those are my proposed changes. Those are the OTA changes I'd really like to see in Marvel Snap. Please respond. Let me know what changes you'd like to see in Marvel Snap. And remember to stay tuned tomorrow for another Snap Take, including a Season Pass giveaway. Have a great day. See you then.